The Game Awards has been getting brutally roasted this year because they changed the rules at the last second, and they're also hiding their jury so you cannot actually see what media outlets affected the decisions made at this event. But now, of course, we have the nominee list, and it is extremely controversial. But to top that off, we also have the mainstream media complaining that their favorite game, the Veilguard, got snubbed. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, of course, they put out the nominee list, and it's been pretty controversial. Game of the Year is the most important, in my opinion. Even though I don't particularly care about this whole entire event, I will be streaming it so that we can watch it. But besides that, to be honest, I don't really take it seriously anymore, especially after last year when they snubbed Hogwarts Legacy. They didn't nominate it in any category because of politics, because the people that are a part of the jury hate J.K. Rowling so much. But Game of the Year nominees are Astrobot, fantastic title, Balatro. I haven't played it personally, but I've heard a lot of good things about it. Black Myth Wukong, fantastic game. Shadow of the Erdtree, I love Elden Ring, do not get me wrong, but I do not think a DLC should be a part of this list. Even though it could have been a standalone game itself, it's not. It is additional content for a game, therefore it shouldn't be a part of this list. Sorry, just my opinion. I love it, don't get me wrong, but it's taking away from the achievements of other developers. It says Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Again, remakes are kind of controversial, and then Metaphor ReFantazio. So most of these nominees are actually pretty solid, though, because they added DLC, a lot of people are quite upset. And the comments do definitely reflect that DLC should not be nominated, make it a separate category. I was shocked when they did not actually have a remake category or a remaster category or a DLC/expansion category. Those would have been phenomenal additions that showed that they were actually listening to gamers, but they decided not to do that. This is like nominating Lair of the Shadow Broker for Game of the Year. No, don't do that. It should be only new releases of the base version of the games in the same calendar year as the awards ceremony. Remasters and DLCs need their own category. Shame on you. People are talking about how Stellar Blade was robbed. Stellar Blade was nominated in 2 categories, which is great. I personally think it should have been on the Game of the Year list. I don't necessarily think that it should have won, but it deserved to at least have been nominated. Same with last year and Hogwarts Legacy. Did I think it was Game of the Year? No. Mine was Final Fantasy 16, but it should have at least been on that list. And funny enough, this is also the most unprofessional Game of the Year of all time, at least from what I've noticed, because the Game Awards, Kotaku, and Cheap Ass Gamer all misspelled Wukong as Waking. So you would have thought that that would have been autocorrect, but it gets even worse because they also misspelled Metaphor as Pahor. They spelt that wrong. And then the Game Awards spelled Erdtree as Erdtrea. So we are talking across the board, mistakes after mistakes. And I initially thought, oh, they all just copy and pasted the official Game Awards press release. But it's weird because the others spell Erdtree correctly where the Game Awards doesn't. So did they only catch that one mistype, or did they really type them all out themselves? It makes absolutely no sense at all whatsoever. Extremely unprofessional, though. Maybe their AI is glitching, but to top all of that off, you also have the media fuming because, as you can see from this Game of the Year nominee list, Dragon Age the Veilguard was not here. Dragon Age the Veilguard actually only got nominated in one single category, and that is accessibility. As you can see, the official description for the innovation in accessibility category is recognizing software and/or hardware that is pushing the medium forward by adding features, technology, and content to help games be played and enjoyed by an even wider audience. This is the only category that the Veilguard was nominated in. It's a pretty performative one. And then then, of course, you also have Star Wars Outlaws being nominated here, and that was only nominated in 2 categories too. So this year, of course, was 2024, the year that slop flopped, okay? All of the woke games did abysmally, and funny enough, now the media is fuming that the activists within the industry could not make a half-decent game that could get nominated at the Game Awards for anything that's actually important, and now Polygon's complaining that there was one big snub in the Game Awards nominations. This was written by Ollie Welsh, never heard of them, but okay. The Game Awards aren't known for much in the way of shock and surprise, and so it proved with the 2024 nominations, a fairly well-rounded list in which most of this year's best reviewed and best loved games got some love. But there was one title very striking for its almost complete absence, Dragon Age the Veilguard. It does not deserve to stand beside a game like Black Myth Wukong, a game like Stellar Blade, a game like Metaphor. It is not a competitor to any of the titles nominated this year, except for in the slop category, which is, Star Wars Outlaws. I know people really did not like Prince of Persia, and all of the other titles nominated this year were fairly, except for, again, something like Shadow of the Erdtree, which, in my opinion, DLCs and expansions and remasters should not be in the GOTY category, but the Game Awards voting jury snubbed BioWare's latest game in a series of key categories where it would have been expected to compete. Now, I think that this was very strategic because I know that they obviously had hidden the jury list, and we've known that for a little while now, and I think that that was done intentionally because right now the mainstream media, the access journalists, are receiving so much backlash for their awful takes that not only did the Game Awards want to protect these people and hide their identities, but I do also think that when it comes to a game like Dragon Age the Veilguard, they knew that that would have gotten raked across the coals, that decision. So they decided we are not going to nominate that this year in the Game of the Year category because we're already taking so much criticism, we're already facing so much backlash, it's just not worth it because they know that gamers are going to roast them for that decision. And sure, you could sit here and say it deserves to get nominated all you want, Polygon, but it didn't. It was not a technical marvel. It is not as good as all of the other games on these lists. It says this is a surprise as a narrative-led blockbuster in a famous series with slick production values. Veilguard is exactly the kind of game that tends to do well at the Game Awards. Its predecessor, Dragon Age Inquisition, won Game of the Year in 2014, which is hilarious because they say that it's this narrative-led blockbuster in a famous series, yet it couldn't even pull 100,000 players on Steam. Don't get me wrong, I've loved some of the previous Dragon Age games. In my opinion, Origins is still the best reigning champion, undefeated, but you would expect those player numbers to be better. And we're hearing that the sales were bad, that it didn't do any better on console, it had major refund numbers, so it just seems that this was kind of one of the biggest flops of the year. It's funny that they're sitting here and they're complaining about Dragon Age the Veilguard, and there are several other games, in my opinion, that were significantly better that were not put into categories or enough, in my opinion, like The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. That was an absolutely phenomenal title. I also really loved Kill Knight. I thought that that deserved to get some recognition. It is an indie game that was fabulous. We're sitting here talking about games that are 100 times better that they are not mentioning that, really, at the end of the day, should be nominated. So it's just funny to me to see this happen because last year the media was going, oh, gamers always complain. You guys are just complaining that Hogwarts Legacy didn't get nominated, but it just wasn't that good of a game. But this year it's okay when they complain a game that they liked didn't get put on the list that they thought it should have. So it's just hilarious to me to see the sheer hypocrisy, and also this year for TGA, the massive level of unprofessionalism, them hiding the jury, them misspelling tons of things. It just comes across as very disrespectful to these developers who worked very hard to get their games out into the world, and they deserved to be nominated. And you can't even take the time to spell check and make sure that these titles are spelled properly and getting the recognition they deserve. So I, of course, will be keeping my eye on the Game Awards. I don't think that this backlash is going to go away anytime soon, and I will be streaming it in just a few weeks when the event is live. But for now, that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.